Lo vedete dietro di me, è al London Stock Exchange e sta lanciando i suoi prodotti ETF anche nel Regno Unito. È Teddy Fusaro di Bitwise, uno dei più grandi gestori di fondi concentrati sulle cripto, e ha parlato con noi, con CryptoValuta.it, proprio quella mattina. Meno di 30 minuti di intervista, ma densi di contenuti che vi invito a godervi tra pochi secondi. Se non vi siete ancora iscritti, cliccate sul bottone iscriviti che trovate sotto di me per non perdervi i prossimi appuntamenti con il nostro canale YouTube.
Yeah, people will never know that I've been very obnoxious to get you on video. I've never been so obnoxious with anybody, maybe with my wife. That's the only time it's been so disturbing and obsessive and whatever. So we have with us Teddy Fusaro. You should know him. He's the president of Bitwise Investment. I think we can say a crypto focused fund manager. Welcome, Teddy. Thanks for being with us.
Buongiorno. It's great to be here, Gianluca. Thank you for having me. And just
Thank
for the
you.
record, I never thought that you were obnoxious, and I appreciate persistence.
Yeah, but persistent is it's a charitable way to put it that. So I don't know. Yeah, I think we can share your location. I think you're in London, right?
Yeah, I'm coming to you live from London this morning, and I'm actually here because our European business, Bitwise Europe, is ringing the closing bell at the London Stock Exchange this afternoon to celebrate the listing or the lifting of what was previously a prohibition on retail investors accessing crypto exchange traded products here in the United Kingdom. So we're very excited about this, and we are here to celebrate the occasion today.
Yeah, I'm very happy for you. Actually, we talked with Andre Dragos about this. We had him live
Yeah,
this week. Yeah, it's quite an achievement. I mean, London is still a very big financial piazza, we say, which is a very old term to mean the capital market. So it's you, BlackRock, and I think 21 shares. The other one still didn't join in, right?
I think that's correct. Yeah.
Do you expect big inflows? Surely it can be like in the United States, but I mean, London is quite a big market.
It's hard to predict in the short term exactly what the flows will be, but what we do know is that UK retail investors do invest significantly into exchange traded products generally. And we anticipate that retail investors will also invest in crypto exchange traded products. We've seen the popularity of exchange traded funds and exchange traded products in many other jurisdictions, including in the United States. Sometimes there's a short period of time where brokerage platforms and other access points where investors make their investments take a little bit of time from when a ban like this is lifted or a prohibition is removed before they make the products available to the users on their platforms. But we do view this as a major turning point in access for the people of the United Kingdom, and we're very excited to be here to deliver it to them on day one.
Yeah, it's. I mean, there is a big difference between United Kingdom and continental Europe as risk, as approach to the markets. Uh, yeah, ATPs about crypto never really took off in continental Europe. But now I'm gonna give you a news. Maybe you don't know. The Italian government is giving you a great chance because a new law about taxation of crypto is coming in, and they are gonna tax spot trading 33%, which is a lot. But it seems that ETPs will remain at 26. So I think that many people will flock into products. You are, if not the biggest, one of the three biggest fund managers in Europe. So maybe it's a good news for you, not for us, but that's life. United
Yeah,
States.
I think that generally what the behavior pattern that we've seen from investors, from all types of investors, not just retail investors, but from all types of investors, is that there's a strong preference for the ETP and ETF wrapper generally. It makes the process of allocating to any type of exposure simpler, more efficient, oftentimes, as you're highlighting in Italy, given the forthcoming rule change, more tax efficient. And so there are a lot of reasons that investors prefer investing in ETFs and ETPs. And in fact, I was having a conversation on a panel in New York earlier this week where there's one way of viewing ETFs and ETPs as the most important financial product innovation in the last 30 years. I think they are now really the core building block of many investors' portfolios. And when you think about it, that's really a seismic shift in how wealth portfolios are allocated.
Yeah, I mean, that's something very weird because in the United States, ETFs are very popular. In Europe, they are much less popular. I think that most people don't even understand the difference between a passive ETF and an active one. But yeah, I think there is some gap to cover, but we are going to probably cover it. But in the United States, you have something new, something very nice, which is the GLS. It's a new standard, it's a new listing standard. It's going to help crypto ETFs. What do you think about that? Is it a good place to be now? Can we expect many more products from Bitwise?
Yes. So what had previously been the case in the United States was that every time an issuer attempted to bring a crypto exchange traded product to the market, it had to go through what was effectively a custom one-off request for approval. This was known as a 19B4 request for a rule change. And that was a process that was time bound by a 240-day process. And at the end of that 240-day process, the answer to the rule change request could be no. And it was no for several years. Bitwise famously filed for our first ETF in 2019. That was before I was balding, and and now what has happened under the new administration and under the new SEC chair, Paul Atkins, is that the United States Securities and Exchange Commission, the primary securities regulator in the U.S., has created this thing called the generic listing standards.
Yeah.
And you just referenced those. We refer to them shorthand as the GLS. And what this GLS does is it effectively creates a rubric or like a checkbox type of scenario where if one of a few things are true, then issuers are able to list exchange traded funds on a national stock exchange in the United States. And this is big product, big regulatory access development in the United States. It's something that we have been at Bitwise and many other industry participants have been advocating for the better part of a decade. And so we're really excited about it. And yes, it does mean that we expect to see more and a varied type of crypto investment products available in the ETP wrapper in the United States. And we expect that relatively soon.
Yeah. If Eric by Bloomberg is right, there are 135 products already.
Yeah.
That's quite
the queue, as they would call it here in London, is quite long. And now not all of those will go to market soon. You do the underlying product, the underlying cryptocurrency does need to meet the qualification standards of these GLS. And so some we anticipate will go relatively soon, and others may take a little bit longer. But it does indeed mean that there is a clear pathway for crypto to be put inside an exchange traded product and brought to market.
I think you can expect Solana pretty quick.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know, Ripple, maybe.
So yeah, it's not too difficult to distinguish because the rules are pretty simple now. And the rules are, if there is a futures contract that's traded on what is called a designated contract market, basically a regulated futures exchange. If there's a futures contract on the underlying crypto, whether it's Solana, XRP, or a handful of others, that creates the standard, the primary standard that I anticipate will be used under the generic listing standards for an ETP to be able to go to market. And some of the ones that you highlighted, including Solana and XRP, do have regulated futures that are traded on a designated contract market. And they have been trading for a period of more than 6 months. And so that is what creates the qualification.
Is it gonna work also the other way around? I mean, you are now with the GLS. Maybe the big future markets, like I think the CME in Chicago, maybe Coinbase, there are not many venues for futures in the United States. So
Yeah,
as long as they now you have the GLS, so they have some kind of push to list more futures. Is it going to work that way? Is it possible?
I think so. I'm speculating here, as you are a little bit, Gianluca, but I think that investors in these types of protocols and these types of assets will want the futures to list, because they will want the ETP as an access tool. And so I anticipate that the crypto futures exchanges, or the regulated futures exchanges, will respond to client demand by listing new contracts on these other assets that don't have them yet. And if they do so, then that cryptocurrency will become eligible to have an ETF traded, listed on it. And so I anticipate that will be something that develops in the next several months.
Sure. So I mean, yeah, there is something different between now and I think 2018. 2018, we had many traditional finance players coming in, but then they left after the market crumbled. Now it looks like more of an organic adoption. I think maybe demand is higher. I don't know what's the reason, but it looks very different. Are we dreaming? Is it wishful thinking, or there is a difference actually? What do you think?
No, I think you're right, Gianluca. I think there has been a change in the market participant mix. I think you also have your finger on the pulse when you said that, look, the market was developing rapidly. There was a major market event in 2022. And after that market event in 2022, notably the implosion and fraud of the exchange FTX, a lot of the traditional players retrenched, retreated, pulled back, decided to put their plans on hold. What has happened in the period since then is that we've seen significant regulatory developments in the US, including the launch of the first Bitcoin ETFs in the US market in January of 2024. And we've seen increasing investor appetite for these types of products. That has increased the need for the traditional financial system and traditional financial service providers to have to support their clients and be able to deliver the service that they need and that they demand. And so what's happening is there's a flywheel, and the flywheel is that clients want exposure to Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, and they're going to get that exposure from the service providers that will deliver it to them. And so there's a competitive dynamic where if the traditional financial players are not offering that service, their competitors will. And so we're having a competitive environment where more and more players are entering so that they can meet the demands of their clients. And that's something that I expect to continue. A big part of this is not just Bitcoin ETFs came online and everything changed. It was a major impetus for the change. But a big part of it is also the regulatory developments under the new Trump administration. The new chairman that I mentioned earlier, Paul Atkins, has been very collaborative with the crypto industry. He understands and sees the benefits of what Bitcoin, crypto, tokenization, blockchain technology in general can bring to our financial services markets. And he has advocated for changes that will allow these market participants to enter the space. And so I that's a trend that we at Bitwise expect to continue to see developing with this.
It's just today we got It's not still confirmed, but it seems that JP Morgan is going to accept Bitcoin and Ethereum as collateral, which is a big development, actually. I mean, it's JP Morgan, it's not a small local bank. So, yeah, there is a lot moving. Yeah, I think that people miss the fact that Wall Street likes money. I mean, Wall Street is all about the whole Wall Street is about money, which is not bad. I mean, but it's their job. If people ask them, this is an exposure they're going to create product.
Yeah, Gianluca, Wall Street is about money, but all business is ultimately about serving your clients, right? It's a commercial endeavor. And you think about the news that you're talking about now that you and I both saw and tweeted about on that Bloomberg reported, which was that JP Morgan is going to start accepting Bitcoin and Ethereum as collateral for loans. It's a really good example of the dynamic that I was just talking about, right? If one of JP Morgan's competitors will offer a loan to a client who has $100 or $100 million worth of Bitcoin, but JP Morgan will not, then the client is going to move their assets to the other institution.
Yeah.
And so that's precisely the dynamic that we're involved in. And the tools and the businesses, the businesses that operate in the crypto economy have also developed to a grade, to an institutional status where they can deliver the types of services that a firm like JP Morgan needs to get comfortable with implementing this kind of business decision. I think that the story on Bloomberg reported that the Bitcoin could be held at a third party cryptocurrency custodian. And 5 years ago, frankly, I don't know if there was a third party custodian that JP Morgan would get comfortable with. But now in today's market, we've had 5 more years of significant investment, development, talent, engineering, and financial coming into our nascent market. And those companies and services do exist. This is how a new asset class is born and grows, right? It takes time. I think a few years ago, investors and observers would get frustrated by the pace not going as fast as they wanted it to. But I think the reality here from Bitwise's perspective and from mine is that when you are handling people's money, people's finances, you can't move fast and break things, right? Things need to be built the right way, and that takes years of development. And I think a lot of those, the fruits of those labors are being harvested now.
Yeah, there is something that Matt Levin of Bloomberg Money Stuff newsletter. He always writes, and I find it very funny. He says that the crypto guys are rediscovering finance by themselves. I mean, they are going through the same process that took 500, 600 years for traditional finance. They're making the same mix. They're inventing the same thing. They're which is quite, I find it, he writes it every 3 or 4 weeks, and I find it funny every time that I read it. I spoke to Andre Dragosh, which is one of your men in Europe. He is very sharp. He's at some kind of intersection between economic analyst and Bitcoin maximalist. He's a very weird is not right, but he's a very peculiar person. Let me put it so. He told us that central banks are considering or already considered or already got exposure through the ETFs. I know that we can't name names, but do you think that there is gonna be for real such a movement? I mean, central banks looking at Bitcoin, does it make any sense for central banks?
Yeah, it does. And Andre Dragos, who I know you had on, is a PhD. He's a brilliant guy. He's our director of research here at Bitwise in Europe. And really glad you had him on the show. He provides a lot of interesting content and insightful, thought-provoking pieces. You can find him on Twitter, and he posts a lot of content there as well. I do think it makes sense, Gianluca. Here is where Bitcoin attracts a lot of different types of people. One of the types of people that it attracts are people that are interested in game theory. And I think the game theory here is pretty obvious. Bitcoin is a fixed supply asset that is supranational. It sits above any government. It's not confined or constrained by borders. It has a fixed supply schedule. It's liquid. The market is liquid. It can be traded daily. It can be moved throughout the financial ecosystem. And the narrative that has taken hold across millions of investors across the world is that this makes sense as a digital version of a gold type of exposure in a portfolio in the internet era. And so, from my perspective, of course, it makes sense that central banks who need to have investments in things that may be valuable if their currency or other assets become debased, degraded, or devalued lower, need to have exposure to. And I think that when it's not very difficult to envision a scenario that once some central banks start to do this, others will need to follow suit. And when they do, another reason that we believe price resolves higher is because of the thing that I started with, which is that Bitcoin is a fixed supply asset. And so it's something that we think is happening now and it's going to happen more in the future. And we won't be surprised when it does.
And also it's defended by consensus, and consensus is in the hands of very peculiar people. I think we saw it now with the Core 30 upgrade. Bitcoiners can get very mean and very aggressive when the standard is, I wouldn't say under attack, but there are peculiar people defending a very peculiar asset, I think. So GLS, JP Morgan, central banks, I think the forecast of Bitwise for the end of 2025 is $200,000 dollars per Bitcoin. Is it something that is happening among your researchers, or you agree? I know that you don't talk about price, but do you find it possible? I mean, we are not gonna come back and say, "Oh, look, Ted said $200,000 and it didn't happen." But do you find it possible in such a short time lapse from now to the end of the year?
Well, there's not many days left in 2025. We only have about 68 days left in this calendar year. Um, but that is our house call. And what I will say about that house call is that Bitcoin tends to churn through round number levels and then teleport higher when it moves. And the reason that we think that that happens is because there are a lot of psychological investors who have points that they've picked at certain price levels where they'll liquidate their holdings. If Bitcoin reaches $125,000 in the future, certain investors will think and plan to sell it at that level. And then once the price kind of churns through that level, it runs out of sellers until you shoot up to the next one. And so we think that when the market environment is right, and what we've seen in the past is Bitcoin moving very rapidly to new highs when the market environment is conducive for it. So even though there's only about 68 days left in the year, we do still have that house call and we think it's possible.
It's possible. It's possible. Yeah, the direction. Yeah, Bitcoin is still it still moves in a very weird way, and we saw what happened with gold. I mean, nobody was expecting gold going to 4,400. I mean, it's out of nobody would ever believed it. Last question, so I'm gonna leave you to your London. How is Europe treating you? I mean, do you like London?
I love London. It's a great city. It's a global city. The food here is great. The people are nice. They do not make iced coffee very well, though. It's the only complaint that I have.
I saw your tweet, because I think not everybody knows that Ted Fusaro is not just the president of Bitwise, but is one of the greatest experts of iced coffee in the universe.
This is what I really wanted to talk about today, Gianluca.
Coffee, you're gonna have a problem in Italy. They're never gonna make a nice coffee for you, even if you ask very kindly.
That's true, but I love espresso, and the espresso in Italy is better than the espresso in London.
At least, yeah, we keep some kind of nice stuff in Italy, because our country is going pretty weird. Ted, thank you for being with us. I'm gonna leave you at your very busy day in the city. Good luck for your ATPs in London. Congrats, and we are gonna be obnoxious again with you, asking for comments and such. We are not gonna leave you alone.
Well, thank you for having me. Grazie mille. I love being with you. Appreciate you having me on the show, and I'm looking forward to talking with you again.
Grazie, Ted. The very, very last thing. Your company is pushing a lot around Solana lately. Is it? I'm gonna be a bit evil in this question. Are you doing it expecting the ETFs launching soon in the United States, or you just like Solana?
I can't say a clear answer to the first one, unfortunately, but I can answer the second one. We do like Solana, and I do like Solana a lot. We think that Solana is an incredibly high performance blockchain. It does things at a speed and processing power that are very impressive. We think that the community of developers building applications and programs on top of Solana is also incredibly impressive. And the other thing that I would highlight is that the staking rewards that are available from the Solana blockchain are averaging near 7% right now. And so to be able to have a passive investment that gives you a sort of software type of exposure to a very exciting blockchain that's developing high powered, high speed applications on top of it, and that also delivers you a return from the staking rewards of somewhere in the neighborhood of 7% potentially, is something that we think investors may also find very exciting.
So it's the next big thing. I mean, there is Michael Saylor says there is no second best. The second best is Ethereum. The third best is going to be Solana. Thank you again. Thank you again, Ted.
Prego. Ciao, ciao.